Okay, so Truly SMB, you've pretty much launched in the last few days or so, I think.
Yeah.
It'd just be good to understand, I suppose, a little bit of background to that, the people involved, at least, yeah, to start with that.
Yeah, so the people involved are predominantly the people that we had at Bamboo Cloud. So myself and my husband Brett. There's also the guy who used to head up our US operations, David Warner, who used to work for Microsoft. So he's back in seat in North America. And then we've recently made an acquisition of a company called True MSP, which are in the UK. So their managing director, Tim Rooks, is also involved.
Okay, and just for those that maybe don't know so much, just a bit of the pedigrees of those people involved. What experience do they bring to the company, I guess?
Yeah, well, my husband's a serial entrepreneur, so he's been doing this for the last 30 years. So he's had multiple MSPs. The and then the most recent one that everyone's worked on, including myself, is Bamboo Cloud, which we sold to Pax8 2 years ago. So we were an award-winning Microsoft partner, very famous for what we did back then. So we're hoping to replicate the same accolades this time around.
Yeah, and in terms of the focus, so obviously you launch yourselves. What in terms of what you're going to be offering the channel, and I guess by extension end users, what's the technology? What's the area of focus for
Yeah,
yourselves?
we've always been Microsoft fans. So again, the business will be predominantly Microsoft with a few other products to complement, but mainly Microsoft. Our go-to-market strategy is around helping SMBs with Copilot and business process automation. That will involve all Microsoft stack. So it won't just be things like Copilot, and it won't just be things like Dynamics or Azure. It'll be the whole lot. So the everything that Microsoft has to offer, we will be simplifying that for the SMB market. So the solution stack is very much Microsoft.
Okay, but you mentioned a co-pilot. I'm guessing that AI, which is the word or the phrase on everyone's lips at the
Yeah.
moment, that's a particular area of focus. So what is it that you think? What are you bringing to that angle? I say everyone's, I think, kind of not if it's not scratching their heads, at least wondering, how and where AI fits within their organization. So what can you bring to the party, I guess?
Yeah, AI is very confusing at the moment because it can be lots of different things for different reasons. So I think what we're bringing to the party is that we understand SMBs, and we understand that they will probably feel even more confused about what AI can do for their business, because they'll probably think this is for bigger companies with deeper pockets and more ability to change. And I think where we want to focus specifically on AI isn't the large and complicated, say, large language models for enterprise. We're not going to be doing anything like that. We're going to be focusing on automating business processes for SMBs. And I really feel that if an SMB can actually benefit more than a big enterprise, because with a few tweaks to their processes, that can be big changes for them. So I think it's around not expecting them to go on some large scale project with us, but to break it down so that we simplify it, that they take baby steps into the technology, and we help them automate business processes in pockets of their organization. So we did that before at Bamboo Cloud, but the answer was always an ERP system or a CRM system or something of that. But I think that will still be there in our new business. But I think some of the time the answer might be a Copilot agent to automate processes versus a large scale implementation of ERP. It's the I know sorry, I know that before, if we'd had that level of technology when we were helping customers before at Bamboo Cloud, the things that we could have done was a lot more than what we did before. So I think the technology's moved on to the advantage of everyone. And I think we have the ability to be able to translate that into an SMB market so that they aren't worried about the level of systematic change that it needs in the business, because it doesn't. It needs it. They can test it and they can understand it, and then they can see where they can adapt it in the future by testing and trialing in pockets of their organization. So we're hoping to demystify it a little so that the SMB market doesn't get left behind and doesn't sit there scratching its head with all the news and all the information that's in front of them, that the answer to them might be to not do anything. So we're hoping that with our help, and that they can test and trial things and understand it a little better, and then really understand how to take their business and optimize their business a lot more with the tech. But fundamentally, it's to SMBs and simplifying it.
Yeah, and in terms of delivery, are you going via MSPs and the channel exclusively? Will you go direct to end users? How does that work?
We'll have a direct model and an indirect model, so a channel strategy. We are going to be producing some IP that helps SMBs along their journey to understand their journey. So when they're making these incremental changes in their business, so these baby steps, that will be essentially monitored and scored in some IP. We are going to be white labeling that so that our channel partners can take advantage of that IP. And we do understand who our target market is. So we, for instance, wouldn't be interested in a large-scale enterprise deployment, for instance. So we will be working with probably the network at Pax8. So they have over 40,000 partners, MSPs around the world. So we're going to be leaning on them for the things that we don't do. And we did that very well at Bamboo Cloud as well. We understood what we did there and what we didn't do. And then we leaned on a network of other friendly faces to help us with the things that we didn't do. But we have both a direct and an indirect go-to-market strategy.
And in terms of the sort of MSPs and the channel more generally, I mean, am I right to say that they themselves are, if not struggling, they're certainly in the early days themselves working out sort of what AI means to their business and how they can deliver? So how will you, I guess, help them? Are you sort of educating both end users and the channel at the same time? Or how does it work, I suppose?
I think it's probably by a process of osmosis that they could take advantage of what we're doing for end customers for their own business. I think it's, if you have an MSP that is smaller, then all the things that we're doing for a small to medium business will also apply to the small to medium business, even if you're an MSP yourselves confused about how to use AI. So I think it's again back to this. I think some businesses are adopting a whole scale approach of saying that everything must change technology wise. Everything's got to be in the cloud. Everything's got to be locked down to an inch of its life. It requires a lot of faith that the AI is going to be worth the pain, and that the net result, the ROI at the end, is what they wanted in their business. But because of the ambiguity over the level of gains, lots of small businesses, including MSPs, will be thinking, well, is it worth it? Shall I just wait? Shall I just see what the others do and then figure it out in 2 years' time? So the method that we want to implement is to not force that whole scale change on the organization, is to test and trial things in pockets of organizations so that you can be secure, you can test it, but you don't need to have a big expensive project to be able to even start. So I think having that method might mean that other MSPs copy that method and that they don't enforce the whole scale change on their customers and themselves.
Yeah, and for the MSPs again, that I think is it right to say that they've themselves been aware of this AI opportunity for a while, because obviously everyone's talking about it, but haven't necessarily known how they can help their customers with it. So is that, do you think you're fulfilling quite a big need there to provide a sort of a portfolio or an AI service that they can say to their customers, look, this is the best way to approach AI. Is that right?
I hope so, yes. That's our goal, to create a new method of delivery to the SMB market. So we'll see in that, won't we? We're all in new territory, and I think what I believe is that because we've come from a business process automation background ourselves previously, that we understand how to listen for those opportunities of where to optimize. And before, the answer was some software. And then now we're listening for those opportunities again to optimize, but the tech stack has just changed a little. So I think it's just about not being scared to use latest tech to be able to do that. And hopefully that will allow other MSPs to do the same thing, or use our services and white label our services to be able to do it. But yeah, I hope so.
And in terms of if there is a such thing as a typical end user, how would you see engagement? Would you imagine they go to their MSP and say, "I've heard about this, clearly slightly simplistic, but I've heard about this AI. How could it help me?" Or will they go and say, "Look, we want to do AI." How do you anticipate the engagement from the end users in terms of AI?
Yeah, we've really given that a lot of thought about how that initial engagement will work with end customers. So we've developed some IP again that helps us set that baseline of where they're at today. So where they're at with their infrastructure, where they're at with their data, where they're at with their security. So it's kind of a scoring system based on the different areas of the business. And then really digging into where we think we can help. So, and not trying to boil the ocean of saying, right, okay, well, it looks like you need help everywhere. We're trying to prioritize them and pick the area of the business that we think would have the most gains as fast as possible. So that might be security, for instance. We might have to do something there to improve their score before to move on. Or it might be that they're trying to buy a business themselves, so we need to do something in sales. So we start off with understanding through assessment and scoring, and then come up with a journey that allows them to implement some of the technology stack, and that can be multiple things from Microsoft in a set period of time. So they haven't got to engage in a massive project with us. They can go as quickly or as slowly as they want, depending on their appetite for change. So they are then deciding their velocity of change, and that might be super quick for some, that they want to get to a net result a lot faster, or this might be a company who wants to take their time and that their journey is slower, because we do understand that the end customer needs to decide themselves and go as quick as what they want to go, because the best will in the world is their business. They know what's right, so we're allowing them to move at their pace.
But in terms of the opportunity, I'm thinking that AI it's a bit like when the internet arrived and small organizations with a virtual presence could compete with much larger, because as long as what people were seeing was good, then they didn't know what was behind, if you like, and as long as the service. Do you see AI as a similar sort of opportunity for smaller companies, that they can, with their agility, etc., take on much larger organizations with the things that AI helps them to do? Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think the entrepreneurial agile businesses are the ones that could really benefit the most. But if we're not careful, they're the ones that will get confused and left behind, because they don't have big IT teams and they don't pay for large scale consultants to come in and help them with those things. So I think the actual entrepreneurial agile businesses are the ones that we really want to help, because they are the ones that could really benefit from a different level of automation, will allow them to be a lot more efficient, reduce bottlenecks in their business, smooth out business processes, because that takes a lot of hard work at the other end of the scale. And the time to value is a lot longer, where time to value in an entrepreneurial agile business is super quick. So they're exactly the type of businesses, and that's the type of result that we think that we could have on a business, is take something quite small into a fast growing business really quickly.
Okay, and in terms of the roadmap, I think you mentioned already potentially teaming up with Pax8 to get yourselves up. What are you doing, as it were, to start with, and without giving away any sort of deep secrets, what's the sort of plan to roll out, increase your presence, add any other solutions, etc.? Just give us some flavour of that.
We've made 2 acquisitions already. So one business acquisition, which I mentioned before, which is True MSP. We also bought a book of business in the US and Canada. So we have over 300 customers from the beginning. So we've kind of skipped the startup stage straight away. Our growth strategy is quite aggressive. We have a US acquisition in the works. So that's they're a little bit like an MSP in the US. So they're next for us to bring over, so that we can help scale in our North America team. And then we would probably make another acquisition in the UK by the end of the year. So we are aggressively buying both capability, geo scale, and skill base.
Yeah, I was going to ask just on the skill base, because obviously the overall IT industry is sort of scratching its head a little bit and saying, we're hundreds of thousands, if not millions, globally, short of expertise, and AI is clearly a very new technology. So, are you confident that you've got some good AI folks and you can expand that sort of skills base as you require?
Yeah, we bring in some new talent into the business specifically on AI. However, what I think, the caliber of people that we had before, so we had business process people before. So where we were solving problems for businesses, we're trying to figure out how to solve that with technology. That's exactly the same. That's exactly what we're going to be doing again, but the tool set is more advanced. So I don't think you need to be the type of consultant that needs to write a large language model for robotics, for instance. We're not going over there. We're focusing on specifically on business processes. So the cross training is easier, because you already know how to resolve business process issues with tech. So it's just the tool set is different and more advanced. So I think the learning is easier. The cross training is easier from the type of people that we had before, and bringing in our expertise on both the security side and the infrastructure side to complement. I think it's an easier starting point than most. We understand business processes, so it's the tool set that we've been ramping up on, and the types of things we can do. I wish we'd had that before, and I'm excited about putting that in now, because it can have a big impact on our business, on our end customers.
Yeah, and maybe just and finish. I mean, we've covered a fair amount of ground, but for folks, and I suspect there are, well, clearly you've identified, but there are many people, whether it's channel working out how to deliver AI for their customers or those end customers. And any just sort of thoughts, advice as to how to plot their way through, shall we say? As you say, everyone thinks that, everyone else is doing it, I'm going to get left behind, or it's for the Fortune 500s, and everyone else below beneath doesn't have a prayer. Just thoughts as to how folks can best address AI, shall we say?
Yeah, I think I think it's the same as anything. So you have to understand who you are, who you're trying to sell to. But I think that's generally a good thing for a business to understand, is that kind of being one thing one day and another thing another day doesn't really help you with that focus of understanding who you're trying to help. So I think once you've got that market in mind and that ideal customer profile worked out, you can then figure out how AI can and help that target. I think the risk is that if you're too horizontal, you don't know who that is, and you're dealing with different types of customers on a daily basis, that's quite tough to understand where to even start. So I think it's understanding where you play strong and understanding how AI can enhance that particular service, because you already have an in-depth knowledge of that ideal customer type and that ideal the challenge that you're currently solving. There will be enhancements to that challenge that you're currently solving with AI. So I'd start there versus going into other areas that you don't know a lot about. I think where we've come from is that our DNA is in helping businesses do more on when they're running their business. How is their business running on tech? That's why we're starting there, because we understand that we can enhance that with AI. So we are expecting that we will do some of the same things that we did before with AI on top. So my advice is to start there, is to understand what you're doing now, and then enhance with AI versus going to a completely different field that you don't know anything about, because that seems like that would be someone else's job to do.
Okay, it's been great to chat and fascinated to find out about the new opportunity you're developing, and some great thoughts about how in general. So Vicky, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.